Singapore has ordered social media platforms TikTok and Meta to disable the accounts of former citizen Zulfikar Mohammed Sharif over his posts that incite racial tensions. The Home Affairs Ministry says he has repeatedly stirred up discontent within the local Malay Muslim community against Singapore Chinese. Zulfikar, now an Australian citizen, was previously a detainee under Singapore's Internal Security Act. Shalin Seah with the details.
Enmity, hatred, hostility, contempt and ridicule, targeting different racial and religious groups in Singapore. These are the kind of inflammatory social media content that Zulfikar Mohammed Sharif would post multiple times a week.
So he has a long history of antagonizing both the Muslim and non-Muslim public, sowing distrust and ill will, as well as painting a narrative of victimization that has implications definitely to Singapore's racial and religious harmony.
In one video post in June, Zulfikar made the false claim that Malay Muslims were, quote, forced to move away from Islam and assimilate into the Chinese community.
Such a narrative can create co-radicalization, which is what we are seeing in other parts of the world, where one community feels that they are being exploited and dominated by another community, and then the other community also puts on a defensive front, and then it will actually drive a wedge between different communities, and that divisiveness is actually not healthy for Singapore's social cohesion, which has implications to the survival of the nation also.
The government has received public feedback and police reports saying that Zulfikar's posts threaten Singapore's harmony. The Home Affairs Ministry says that the content broke laws on religious harmony and has directed social media firms TikTok and Meta to disable his accounts and stop his content from causing harm.
I think the significance of taking all this content is that it reaffirms Singapore's position on racial harmony. And I think in Singapore, we have a zero tolerance approach towards racial and interracial and interreligious incitement. So in the case of Zulfikar, he actually crossed several lines that inflamed some racial tensions.
In 2016, Zulfikar was detained under the Internal Security Act for promoting terrorism and glorifying ISIS online. MHA says that his actions had contributed to the radicalization of at least 2 other Singaporeans. At the time, he called on Muslims to reject the constitutional, secular and democratic state in favour of an Islamic state governed by Sharia law, and he believed that violence could be used to achieve this goal. Zulfikar renounced his Singapore citizenship in 2020 and is now an Australian citizen. Earlier in April this year, Zulfikar was also identified as a foreigner attempting to influence Singapore's general election. He had operated under a different Facebook name, accusing several Malay Muslim MPs of failing to represent their community's interests and claimed that they didn't need another Malay MP who didn't reflect their views. Amid the hustings, MHA and the Elections Department issued a statement warning against mixing religion and politics and also directed platforms to disable Singapore users' access to its posts. The police have started investigations into Zulfikar's conduct.
Singapore's acting minister in charge of Muslim affairs says Zulfikar Mohammed Sharif's actions have threatened the trust built between the country's Malay Muslim and Chinese communities. Associate Professor Faisal, who is also the Senior Minister of State for Home Affairs, says Singaporeans have toiled to build a cohesive society over decades. Such posts, he says, seek to destroy the fabric of the nation's multicultural society. He calls on Singaporeans to continue protecting the peace, trust and unity of their society.